Hi, my name is Debbie, and I am obsessed with all things to do with ultrasound. I'm an empty nester who has spent the last 28 years scanning in all different kinds of situations: clinics, hospitals, point of service, emergency departments, private offices, echo, vascular, general, high risk OB, and want to dive down deep into all things to do with technology, techniques, and transformation. It's time we take ultrasound to the next level. Think of this like your little power boost on your commute to all things ultrasound, along your way to the thing that we call work. So pull up a seat, make sure you're comfy, and be ready to be challenged and encouraged as we learn it's all about the frequency. Welcome to It's All About the Frequency. Today, we are going to talk about the power of leading with a purpose, the power of being a servant leader. And how do we do that? So I believe to start out, I think ultrasound kind of goes beyond, after you learn the technical part of ultrasound goes beyond the technical skills and lies with something even more powerful. I believe leadership is a key that everyone holds within themselves. Not the kind that comes with a title, but the kind that comes in to be able to change rooms, to change teams, and to change outcomes. Today, we're going to talk about servant leadership, a philosophy that flips traditional leadership upside down and asks us, how can I serve first in order to lead better? So first, let's talk about what is servant leadership. First of all, I got this inspiration from our handy dandy SDMS journal. I encourage you to get these. They're very inspirational. They give you a lot of information, and it gives you a lot of information about other specialties as well. It helps you understand the ultrasound world as a whole and not just your specialty. So I encourage you to do that, because in our SDMS magazine, it talks about servant leadership and how this article was written mostly by Kevin Evans, and he talked about Stephen McLaughlin, and who was the leader of SDMS, and how he served SDMS as a great servant leadership. And he gives various different examples of how he was able to lead our profession through some really hard times and times that were really changing. And so we're going to talk about some of those today. But I think it's important to define servant leadership. It's a term that was coined by Robert Greenleaf in the 1970s. He said, the servant leader is servant first. It begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve. Then conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. In simple terms, servant leadership means putting others' needs before your own. It means using your position not for power or recognition, but to uplift others. Now, what I don't think servant leadership is putting everybody else above you, their needs before your needs. So my definition of that is codependency. So I think you need to be able to take care of yourself and pour out from a full cup before you serve other people's needs. So that's what I don't think servant leadership is doing for others what they can do for themselves. I don't think that's servant leadership, but it's not a weakness either. I think servant leadership can be a strength when it's added with humility. So it's having the courage to lead from behind, to listen more than you speak, and to empower those around you. In medicine, this kind of leadership creates safer spaces for patients and more collaborative environments for teams. In ultrasound, it turns routine scans into meaningful experiences. So why does servant leadership matter? In ultrasound, it's like I said before, it's not just imaging. We're dealing with very intimate settings and intimate topics for a lot of our patients. Our patients are vulnerable mentally, emotionally, and physically. We meet them during pregnancies, traumas, diagnoses, and sometimes at the end of life. Servant leadership allows us to lead with empathy instead of ego, create trust between technologist and patient and physician, mentor others without judgment, and advocate for better care and policy. In today's fast-paced healthcare systems, it's easy to become task-focused and emotionally drained. Servant leadership realigns us with why we got into this field in the first place: to serve, to help, and to heal. So let's talk about some of the characteristics of servant leadership. So I have 10 characteristics of servant leadership that were discussed in the Journal of SDMS about Stephen McLaughlin and how he portrayed those in his leadership skills. So we're going to talk about listening, truly hearing patients and coworkers without rushing to respond. Empathy, understanding without judgment, especially when people are at their most vulnerable. Healing, bringing a presence that soothes, comforts, and restores. Awareness of myself or yourself, my biases, your body language, and your influence. Persuasion, leading by inspiration and example, not authority. Conceptualization, seeing beyond the daily grind to the bigger picture. Foresight, anticipating consequences and needs before they arise. Stewardship, caring for resources, tools, and most importantly, people. Commitment to growth, helping others reach their full potential. And community building, creating a culture where everyone feels valued and seen. Which of these traits do you see in yourself already? A lot of us have these. Which do you think you would want to improve on? So here's a few examples, some things you might relate to. A young technologist starts their first OB rotation. Instead of criticizing their inexperience, a senior tech takes them under their wing, shows patience, and encourages questions. That's mentoring through service, not superiority. A personal example for myself in relation to this is I'd like to mentor a lot of people through my 20 plus years of ultrasound experience. And one technologist, young, just starting out in high-risk OB, started scanning a patient, and she came out and she said, I need some help. I can't get X, Y, and Z. I can't remember what it was. Can you help me? And so I went in to help her, and I realized there was no heartbeat. Now, she had been in there for quite some time trying to get all this anatomy, and it would have been really easy for me to say, why didn't you notice that, right? But when you're young and just starting out, I remember doing the exact same thing. I remember scanning and not even noticing the heart because I was in my head thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to get this, 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 and this. And I totally overlooked it. I noticed it later, right? I mean, the patient didn't leave with not knowing, but this happened. And instead, I mean, I know what it feels like to be in that situation because I've been there. So I came out of the room and I just said to her, I know exactly how you feel. I did the exact same thing. So no shame here. We've caught it. We know how to deal with it and we know how to move on. And I think that's the important part of me too, right? I've done it too. Like Let the shame gremlin, as Brene Brown says, out of the closet. Like, don't even let them have a place in your life because we've all made mistakes that we're embarrassed about or not proud of. And so say, you know what? Shake it off. Don't worry about it and move on. Right. It was a learning experience for her, for me, because I didn't want her to feel bad because I've done the same thing. But I could have come out and just left it alone, not said anything about it, and let her sit over there in her little shame closet by herself, beating herself up like we all do, like way too often. And I didn't want her to do that. Get the shame gremlin out. Me too. Yep. I have sure done that exact same thing. So, moving on, we're going to do better next time. We've learned, right? It's a learning situation. Example 2, a patient receiving a difficult diagnosis breaks down during a scan. The technologist holds space with silence and presence, gently grounding the patient in compassion. I think every one of us do this every single day. And that's a healing presence. That's not part of the protocol. Another example, a tech notices the scheduling process is consistently overwhelming staff and impacting patients' care. They bring ideas to leadership and offer to help redesign the workflow. That's a proactive service, not a passive frustration. You don't need a title to lead. You lead every time you lift someone else. Advocate for a better way or choose people over process. So, how can you cultivate a servant leadership mindset, right? How do we become servant leaders? Not just occasionally, but as a daily practice. The first suggestion I would have is to reflect daily and rate yourself. Ask yourself at the end of the day, did I serve well today? Who did I serve well today? Did I leave someone better than how I found them? I think this is priceless to be able to reflect on your day, to rate yourself. Yeah, I showed up as my best self today. I showed up as the real me that really was able to serve others. I felt good about today. I would give it a 10 out of 10. Or the real truth of the matter is we have to be honest with ourselves. And there's some days when we have a bad day, and I might have been a 3 out of 10 or 5 out of 10. And so I think the key is being honest with ourselves. I showed up as a 7 out of 10, maybe in a day. Okay. I'm being honest. What could I do to make that better? Was there something that happened out of my control, or what was in my control that I could learn to do better? The next thing I think we can cultivate is listening. Resist the urge to fix or advise. Let people feel heard. So fixing to me is a codependent. Believe me, I have been a number one codependent for quite a while that I have been working on for a long time, right? And I have certain processes in my life in place so that I don't fall into those behaviors again. And fixing, whenever I want to fix something, I really have to take a breath and step back. That's a clue to myself not to be codependent, right? Or advice. I've learned that giving advice really can sometimes be an insult to others unless it's asked for. So, do you want my advice? Sometimes I'd say, do you want my advice? Or you just want me to listen? Right? So some of the things I say are tell me more about this or that or the other. Tell me more about your periods. You know, what do you mean by that? Often I will repeat what they said to me. I'll repeat it back to them. And so I'll say, okay, so your last menstrual period was X, Y, and Z, right? So they feel heard, right? Or sometimes patients of different ethnicities have very difficult names, and I'll ask them, how do you pronounce your name? And I'll repeat it back to them so that I can say it. And sometimes I'll say it a couple times just so it gets into my brain. The next thing that we're trying to cultivate is teach when you can. Now, I find a lot of opportunity here on this point. Share knowledge freely, and helping others grow does not diminish your skill, it magnifies it. So, for instance, I had a patient the other day and I did a biophysical, and the baby didn't do well under the biophysical. But I'd scanned her before, and we had a really good rapport with each other. And she told me, she goes, I just rolled out of bed and showed up. I didn't eat anything, I didn't drink anything, nothing. And I said, you know what? I bet you if we got you hydrated and the doctor wanted to send her to labor and delivery, by the way, to watch the baby a little bit closer. And so I had to explain to her, the doctor wants to take you to labor and delivery. We'll walk you over there. And she was young. This was her first pregnancy. And I didn't want her to be worried. And so I said, it's kind of my gut feeling that this baby is going to pop right out and wake up and do just fine, but we don't know that for sure. So just to be careful and to be safe, we're going to take you to labor and delivery and watch this baby a little longer. And I bet once you get hydrated and once you eat something, this baby's going to do just fine. But we do need to make sure that that's going to be how it ends up for you, and that the baby's not trying to tell us that something's kind of going on. And so I use that as like a teaching time to say, and she goes, yeah, I didn't hydrate. I didn't eat. And I said, well, sometimes that makes a difference and sometimes it doesn't. If baby's not doing well, baby's not doing well. And we need to figure that out. So I find a lot of opportunities for teaching, which I love. So I think that really by educating the patient in a nice, encouraging way, and teaching the patient, hey, it might be better for you to eat or drink something before you get here, even though we gave her water and crackers to help. So, teach when asked, right? Care for yourself. Okay, here we go, right? You cannot pour from an empty cup. Servant leadership includes protecting your own well-being so you can continue to serve. Now, hear me out. We need to hear this again. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Servant leadership includes protecting your own well-being so you can continue to serve others well. So I have been shared with by a mentor an acronym that's called MEDS RX. And when I'm not feeling so great for the day, I think about this. What do I need to do to get myself to feel better? M is for meditation. E is for exercise. D is for diet. S is for, oh boy, now I'm testing myself. Support. I think that's friendships. Or S is for meditation, exercise, diet. R is relationships, and X is supplements. Med RX. That's what it is. Med RX. So M is for meditation. Have I meditated today? Have I exercised today? How was my diet today? Do I have good, supporting, uplifting relationships in my life? And have I taken supplements for my health? These are the things that I evaluate every evening so that I can care for myself. How did I do with these things today? Did I show up for myself first and foremost? Because if I'm pouring from an empty cup, that's not really showing up for someone else. Right? So, and people in healthcare, oh my gosh, we have got to do this way more than other people in other fields. I have friends in other fields. I have children in other fields. I have some children in healthcare. And we have to do way more self-care than those in other fields. Quite frankly, it's just a matter of fact. It's super important that you care for yourself first. The next skill I think we can cultivate is leading upward. Leadership doesn't always mean managing down. You can be a servant leader even in how you support your manager or hospital administration with respect, constructive ideas, and collaboration. So at the end of the day, the final reflections are you don't need to change who you are to be a leader. You just need to serve with intention, right? Whether you scan in an ER, a private OB office, a high-risk fetal center, or your presence matter. If you're an echo department or vascular, wherever you are at, your presence matters. Your energy matters. Your influence is quiet but powerful. You're not just a technician behind a probe or a technologist behind a probe. You are an agent of compassion, healing, and leadership. Maya Angelou would say, people will forget what you said, but people will never forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. I'm sorry, let me say that again. Ufnan, take that out. Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Be the kind of leader who makes people feel safe, feel seen, and feel supported. So in the coming week, ask yourself, where can I lead by serving? Where can I be the difference? Let's not have our scans just be guided by protocols, but by purpose. Maybe your call to action today is doing a self-evaluation every evening. Whatever it is, you're called to lead. You are a leader. Servant leadership is more than a style. It's a commitment, a daily choice to lead by lifting, to grow by giving. Servant leadership is more than a style. It's a commitment, a daily choice to lead by lifting others up, to grow by giving, and to leave every space better than you had found it. Thank you for all you do. You are the heartbeat of patient care and the future of this profession. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to It's All About the Frequency podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Share it with a friend and remember to keep your frequency high.